welcome back to the Cinebros Podcast. Guys, it's a special episode today. We do have a brand new guest on the show. We welcome Isaac Williamson to the show. Isaac, say hello. Give us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up on the show.
Hello, everyone. Thank you to the Cinebros for this privilege to be on the podcast. I've been listening in for a long time. Before we started recording, I was telling them about how I came across their YouTube channel. I actually came across you guys via Instagram on the Explore page, of all things. Let's see, a little bit about myself. I obviously really enjoy movies, obviously really enjoy the DC movies, which is what we'll be talking about today. And I'm going to give a shameless plug here. I have my own YouTube channel, Isaac Williamson, and I talk about movies there as well. But I'm really excited to have a conversation with you guys because, as I mentioned, I've been listening to you guys. So it's kind of surreal to be having a conversation with you because I've been watching you on YouTube for so many months.
Yes, we do welcome you as well. And as you mentioned, this episode we will be giving our general thoughts on the DCEU, the DC Extended Universe, DC's response to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I'm just going to get this out of here. Isaac, I know you said you were a fan of the DCEU. I think it doesn't even hold a candle to the MCU.
Well, that's a respectable opinion, but I have to disagree.
I agree.
Yeah, yes. I agree with Tyler on that one.
As you can tell by their voices, I have Luke and Ray with me again.
Well, you know, when I was chatting with Luke, he asked me what I wanted to do. I said, well, I've been watching through the DC movies, and the Snyder Cut's pretty fresh. I figured that would be a good thing to talk about. And he said, you want to do a tier ranking? I said, no. I feel like I'd upset the entire ranking because most people don't have the opinions I have. So I didn't want to upset the ranking too much.
Yes. We do plan on doing another video in the future with Isaac relating to his ranking of things that I take issue with, but you'll have to wait for that. Yeah. So maybe a ranking video with Isaac is not a good idea, but anyway, so we're just going to go through all the movies in the DCEU and just give our thoughts about them. Starting with Man of Steel, releasing in 2013, directed by Zack Snyder and produced by Christopher Nolan. Now, interesting tidbit that I know that you guys may or may not know. Did you guys know that after the success of Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, Warner Brothers wanted him to act as kind of like the Joss Whedon or Russo brothers to their own universe, and he turned them down?
Well, I think that was a good decision by him.
Yeah, I think him serving as a producer. We all started talking at the same time. I think him serving as a producer is a good role. He's only produced 2 movies, the Man of Steel, correct me if I'm wrong, but Man of Steel and Zack Snyder's Justice League most recently. Yeah, he did a great job with the Batman trilogy, but after those movies, he said, yeah, I don't want to have my stamp on too many other superhero movies. I want to tell my own stories, and he's deserved it. I mean, Luke and Tyler, you both love Tenet, am I right?
Oh yeah.
I don't love Tenet. It's enjoyable. I love it. I like almost every other Christopher Nolan movie, but Tenet is definitely near the bottom for my tier list.
I don't want to get into this too heavily because this might be a whole episode in itself, but Luke, you might not like this. Tenet was the first movie I watched out of quarantine, the first movie I'd watched pretty much after a year of being absent from the theater.
Yeah, same.
And I took me and my brothers and my brother-in-law, and I invited everyone. I was like, guys, this is a Chris Nolan movie. It'd be great. And every single one of us were lost, and just it was a miserable experience because we had no idea what was going on. We couldn't hear what was going on in the theater. It was a mess. It was a mess of a movie. But your love of the movie might make me consider watching it again.
Well, here's the thing. I had to watch it 3 times to really understand everything, and I still have some questions. And it's a little bit of a shameless marketing strategy by Christopher Nolan to be like, well, if they want to understand everything, they can come pay to see it again. But I mean, I really like the movie. I know it's getting a lot of backlash and stuff, recently. and because it failed to kind of revitalize the box office after COVID like it was supposed to do. But I really enjoyed it a lot. I think it's
Chris Nolan must be so ticked off that he wasn't the one to save cinemas, but Godzilla versus Kong was.
I can only imagine how upset he is at that. What?
I spent years crafting the story. Go for it.
I'll continue.
I was just saying he probably spent years crafting that story, and he's ticked off that big monkey fight big lizard makes more money.
Yeah, because you just know people like that are like really pretentious. They don't understand that people just want to have a good time at the movies. Like
it's most film students, Tyler.
Like we just had over a year of being locked in our houses, people dying around us. There were masks everywhere in public. People just want to laugh and have fun at Big Monkey versus Big Lizard, not mind twisting whatever Tenet was.
It's perfect escapism entertainment. I'm not surprised it's making the money it is.
And I will say, Godzilla versus Kong was one of the best theater experiences I have ever had.
Dude, you are telling me. I went to see that movie as well with my brothers, and we're all full boys. We're like, we just want to see big monsters punch each other for an hour and a half or so, and we got exactly that. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
I watched that in IMAX.
See, I wanted to, but the closest IMAX to us was closed, so we couldn't. We just watched it on like the biggest screen we could find.
Yeah, we watched it. We drove an hour and a half to watch it in IMAX, and it was worth it.
Yes. Anyway, back to the DCEU. Yeah, Ray, you definitely missed out. Yeah, you definitely missed out not watching it in theaters.
I still loved it though, on my laptop.
Yeah. Anyway, DC movies. Man of Steel. This is one of the few DC movies that I saw in theaters when it came out. So, and I always kind of forget that this movie is part of the DCEU. I'm looking at the dates right now. There is an almost 3-year gap between Man of Steel and the next closest movie in the DCEU, which is Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. Which, as I look at it, is a really stupid name. But Man of Steel, what did you guys think of it?
I didn't really like it.
My first experience with Man of Steel, like you, Tyler, I watched it in the theaters as well. I was 13 or 14 when it came out. No, I was 14. We watched it. I took my sister to watch that movie, and that was a special experience. And at the first time I watched it, I was like, what was that? That's nothing like the cartoons, or I was a big fan of Superman Returns, and there's nothing like that. But I've grown to really love that movie over the years.
Gosh, man. Well, more power to you, because I really don't like it at all. I'm really not a fan.
I understand. I can understand why people don't like it.
Well, it's just because, I mean, I get it though. I mean, you had a really good experience with it, and I'm sure, that, and it's really neat to hear different opinions about it, because I know a lot of people like you, Isaac, that really, really like this movie. I mean, it's not the worst thing ever. You know what I mean? It's not as bad as a couple of the movies we're going to talk about here in a minute, for sure. But I mean, I just don't really like it. The biggest thing to me is that, okay, I'll just tell you my two big complaints real quick. Number one, I hated his dad in this movie, Jonathan Kent, played by Kevin Costner. I hated him because he's just, I understand that he wants, Clark to hide his powers from people, but he saves a bus of children who are going to drown, and he saves them. And he's like, what was I supposed to do, Dad? Just let him drown? And he's like, maybe. I was like, what? What are you talking about? You're an idiot. And then later on, there's a big tornado because they live in Kansas. So, I mean, per the usual. And Clark is going to fly into the tornado to save him. And his dad is like, no, don't save me. People will see you using your powers. And he dies.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're a total idiot. I hate his character in that movie. I hate it.
Those are worthy criticisms, Luke. And I don't I enjoy most of these movies. I might even go so far. I don't want to say I love them. I really like them because love is a heavy word. I don't know if it pertains to a movie, but I really, really admire Man of Steel. I do have my problems with it, and some of those are addressed by your criticisms, particularly the death of his dad. The way I think about it is his dad has a global mindset. I mean, at that time, alien life, people are very comfortable in their life. Kansas is a relatively religious state. I mean, there's a lot of people that claim to be Christians and have faith, and upsetting what it means to be human, upsetting what your purpose on earth is with the evil, it will ruin some people's faiths for that reason as well. So his hesitancy to show Clark to the world, he's going through his own crisis of faith, probably, and crisis of humanity. And Clark's introduction to the world would put that responsibility on more than one person. But Luke, I want to ask you, what do you think about the scene where Clark is told by his dad that he is an alien? In the barn.
I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I don't really like Jonathan Kent's character. I understand what you're saying, and you totally described like Jonathan Kent's perspective in that moment, and I get it. That's definitely how he was feeling. But I don't know. I understand him being very cautious, and he wants to protect his son, but at the same time, a perfect example, another example of a father figure doing it the right way, I think, is Uncle Ben to Spider-Man, because I think he basically was telling him to, you need to, with great power comes great responsibility. And he's basically tells Peter that, you need to spend your life trying to help people. You know what I mean? Like serve others and help them. And I don't know, Jonathan Kent's approach is just, I don't know. And plus it's totally different to how Jonathan Kent was in the comics, because in the comics, he's a little bit more of an Uncle Ben type character. So I don't really like that change that much, but I don't think Zack Snyder reads a lot of comic books really. That scene in the barn's fine.
The scene in the barn is when he's telling him Kevin Costner, brilliant acting in this moment.
He's a really good actor. Yeah. He does a good job.
And I might even get like emotional talking about it right now, but when he says like, can I just keep pretending I'm your son? Like, brilliant acting to the kid as well. And then Pa Kent's like, you are my son. And his voice breaks in that moment. I watched that as an adult and I'm just like, dang it. That's so touching.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's not like I said, there's a lot of good stuff in this movie, but I just feel like it's overshadowed. Plus I hate the portrayal of Superman in the movie just because, again, it's a lot of media, a lot of movies, even like the Christopher Reeve movies, which I think, the first one's very groundbreaking because it was like the first big superhero movie, really, as we know him today, coming out in the 70s. But I just feel like Superman, he grew up on Earth and had a good life with a good family, had friends growing up and everything. But then as an adult, he's like this benevolent, godlike figure who can't really connect with humanity. I don't feel like in the comics that's not him at all, and I just feel like and Zack Snyder likes to compare him to Jesus a lot. You know what I mean? That's a comparison that he's even made in interviews, and I don't really I understand that that's just a complaint for this movie because you can have different interpretations of a character, but I just do not like that interpretation of a character. To me, yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, finish what you're saying, and I'll say something.
Well, I'm just saying that. To me, even though he is an alien, to me, he's a human first. He's Clark Kent first because he had that life with an earthly family and was raised to respect others and by a good-hearted family. And I just feel like these movies don't do a good job of portraying that.
It's fair. I want to say something, but I want to hear what Ray and Tyler have to say.
Right. Yeah.
So, Tyler, you were me first. Tyler, go ahead.
So, I think we can all agree that Henry Cavill is a great casting of Superman, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
In terms of looks, I don't know that there is anyone on the planet that looks more like Superman than Henry Cavill. However, I'm a big gamer. I like to play games a lot. And I've always heard this thing. You know, we have a ton of Spider-Man games, a ton of Batman games. And I've always kind of heard this principle with Superman that makes telling a Superman story in a video game difficult. And I would imagine that the same principle applies to movies. Especially movies that are trying to be set in kind of like a gritty, realistic world where superheroes typically tend to exist. So not technically realistic, but that's what it's trying to do. And that principle is, how can you tell a convincing story with a character that can do anything? Like, how do you tell a convincing story with a character who is literally a god? Like, he can't be, like, touched by, like, mortal means, basically. And I've always kind of felt that Henry Cavill's, the character Superman that he portrays kind of struggles with that. It seems like every movie that he's in, his character traits change. And I thought Man of Steel, since it's the starting off point for his character, I felt it was good. I remember I was also like 13 when I saw it in the theater. And I remember coming out of it, I liked the movie. I was never big into like the Justice League or the DC superheroes as a kid. I was always a Marvel guy. So I didn't really have that big of an opinion on Superman. But coming out of Man of Steel, I did enjoy it. I felt that like the whole General Zod arc in it was pretty weak, as well as like the Lois Lane arc was really weak as well. You all have addressed some critiques with like the dad and everything, but I do feel like Man of Steel is a decent starting place for the DCEU. Except when you compare it to the first Iron Man movie, which was the starting point of the MCU, I feel like they are comparable. I don't think Man of Steel is as good as the Iron Man movie. And I also think it's a little different because I don't think that when they made Man of Steel, I don't think they used it to really set up a universe like the first Iron Man movie did. I feel like a lot of the problem with the DCEU is that the movies that they make kind of feel disconnected from each other. Like, even the ones that are like meant to tie into other things really just don't feel that way in the same way that the Marvel movies do. And I don't think Man of Steel really built to anything. I felt like when the movie ended, you were left with a sense of, okay, well, that's done. Now, why did that matter in the grand scheme of this universe? And I don't think that question is ever really answered by the remaining movies in the series. You all may agree or disagree with that.
Your question was, what do we do for, how does it impact the rest of the series? Is that a fair assumption?
That's a fair. I don't think that question is ever really answered by the rest of the DCEU.
Yeah.
Because
I agree. I think that
like with Iron Man, you know, it ends with Tony Stark saying, "I am Iron Man," and you know, you get to hear about like the Avengers Initiative and all of that in like the end credits, and it kind of sets up the rest of the movies after it. But there's a 3-year gap between movies in the DCEU after this movie, so it really makes you wonder, like, did they even plan anything?
Yeah. Well, the quick answer to that is not really. I mean, you got to take into account that the DC movies don't have as much creative freedom as the Marvel movies does. I mean, Marvel is owned by Disney, but Marvel's also a production company itself. The DCEU movies are not a production company for itself, so they're struggling to find the creative lead, and there's been a lot of studio interference over the years. Man of Steel, I don't think they gave it enough time. I don't think they gave the DCEU enough time to find its footing, because they shoehorned all these plot points in the next movie, BVS.
Ray, do you have anything to say on Man of Steel, real quick?
Honestly, I think it's the bottom, like the worst DCEU movie to me. It's just really boring. I watched it when it came out in theaters, and honestly, I don't even really remember much of it. That's how much it did for me, really. I think it's the worst out of the. I would definitely rather watch Suicide Squad or BVS.
Well, that's interesting. Most people prefer Man of Steel over BVS.
Not me, honestly.
All right. Well, since we kind of segued into BVS, I haven't actually seen this one. This is one of the ones I have not seen in the DCEU. I'll let you all talk about it wherever you would like to start. Ray or Isaac, you can start with your feelings of it.
I'm going to give this one to Ray since I've talked your ears off about Man of Steel.
So honestly, like, there was a lot of hype leading up to BVS because there's never really been a DC movie like that. And like, it didn't really live up to the hype. Like, I went in with super high expectations. I wasn't really let down, but like, I wished more would have happened, but like, that doesn't mean it's not good. But like, I feel like most people's criticism with this one is like dark Batman or like Batfleck, Ben Affleck. Like, did you guys not like Dark Batman in this? Like how he kills people and stuff like that?
I hate it.
I honestly kind of like it personally.
Really?
But I'm into like dark stuff in movies like that.
Well, see, Batman can be very dark, and I prefer dark Batman, but not. I feel like that just took it overboard. Like I feel like that's Zack Snyder not understanding one of the characters in his movies, because Batman should not kill people. I'm sorry, that's just my opinion, though. I mean, you guys can disagree, obviously, but I just do not think Batman should kill people. That's like his biggest rule that he has, and I don't know. I don't like that.
Yeah, I could see like where you're coming from, but I personally didn't really have a problem with it. Like when I think Batman, I think like of just a super dark character, and like when he kills in this movie, like it makes him like his character a lot more dark to me. And I kind of liked it. It was like a more change. You think about how many Batman movies we've had, and his character's never really been like that. So it was kind of refreshing to me.
Yeah. Going off what Ray said, I have my problems with BVS as well, but I think what Zack Snyder was trying to do, he does understand the characters. He reads a lot of comic books. But here's how I look at it. It's almost like him putting a motion graphic novel. He's making a motion picture graphic novel. And when you're making a new comic book, often you take liberties and you want to change up the formula a little bit. He's doing that, but he's doing it on the screen rather than via a comic book. And you can take that as you want. For me, like what Ray was saying, this is a storyline that isn't shown too much for Batman. I mean, obviously it takes huge inspiration from The Dark Knight Returns. Even the visual look of Batman's costume, Batfleck, as he's affectionately titled from his costume. But I really like the difference, the freshness of it, and that's my thing for Man of Steel too. It's a storyline. It's a new world for Superman that we haven't seen. And I think we needed some freshness, especially in the comic book movie world. What do you think?
Well, I mean, you can change. Yeah. I mean, I'm totally cool with changing things. Because, like, real quick, I love Captain America: Civil War, and that changes all kinds of stuff. That is like nothing like the comic. But here's the thing: you can change like aspects of a story, but for me, that's just a fundamental aspect of Batman's character. And yeah, I mean, you can still change it, but it's all boils down to opinion, right? And I just don't. Because that's the thing. Like Batman is very dark and foreboding just because he's named Batman and he fights at night and all kinds of stuff like that. But like he's still a good person. Like he doesn't he's just as morally sound as Superman, honestly. From the comics, they're pretty much on the same level. It's just, Batman is kind of looks dark and foreboding. So people just assume that he's like really grumpy all the time and dark. And I like dark Batman, but he values life highly too. So I just don't. But I get it though. I mean, Zack Snyder's doing something bold and different, and I can respect that. I just don't like it personally. But I mean, I can see what you all are saying.
It does boil down to opinion, and I have my problems with his killing. But the way I've rationalized it is this is the start to a new arc for Batman. I mean, his character in this movie and his character in Zack Snyder's Justice League are completely different, and that was intentional. But yeah, the killing rule, I agree with you, Luke. I don't like seeing Batman straight up murder people.
Yeah.
I mean, they're bad guys, right?
Oh yeah.
But this is a man who's late in his career, and he's probably just done with it. He's like, you know what? I'm tired of all this. I'm just going to start killing folks. But yeah, I agree. I don't really like the killing thing, but I'm willing to overlook that in my enjoyment of the rest of the movie.
I mean, like, overall, it was like an enjoyable movie to watch. Like, the fight between Batman and Superman wasn't let down, and we get Wonder Woman. We get in the DCEU for the first time, which was also super cool.
Her reveal in the theater, that was a theater experience.
I love the music that plays when she comes out always. Dude, it's always super cool.
Oh, man. That's Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer did that score with Junkie XL, and that was a hype moment in the movie theater.
Yeah, I love that. Like, it was definitely.
Now, could I ask a question? I haven't seen this movie.
Please ask a question, Tyler.
Is there anything in the movie leading up to her reveal, or does it just happen?
She's in the movie before that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, they kind of try and like set up like further story for the DCEU in this movie. They kind of like the Flash isn't in it, but they kind of like introduce them a little bit.
Okay.
I think how they do it. I think how they do that is lazy, because like Marvel does it so much better. In this movie, Wonder Woman just watches some videos of these other people, and it's like, oh, okay, there's other people with powers out there. It's just very lazy and throwaway.
I completely agree with Luke. I think a good example, I know Luke mentioned Captain America Civil War earlier. So when we're introduced to Sam Wilson, the Falcon, in Captain America Civil War, he's just a guy. Like, he's just a former veteran who happened to be at the right place at the right time. And he doesn't just become a superhero. What are you saying, Ray?
Didn't we get Sam in Winter Soldier?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm thinking of the wrong Captain America.
Yeah, Sam's in Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the wrong Captain America. I'm thinking of Winter Soldier. You're right.
Okay.
But anyway, we don't see him as like a superhero. Like, he actually has like a story element as to why he's there and why he becomes a superhero, like why he's chosen. I feel like that's an apt comparison for the introduction of Wonder Woman into the DCEU, because she just kind of shows up. I know you guys say she was in the rest of the movie, but from what I was understand, she doesn't really have a introduction to her, like, oh wow, this is Wonder Woman. She just kind of shows up. Is that accurate?
There's hints throughout the movie. She has a lot of run-ins with Bruce Wayne. I mean, I think they run into each other at like this big fancy museum ball. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, but she's in the movie prior to that, and there's subtle hints that she's not who she's pretending to be. She's got the secret identity going on, and I think Luke brought up the email situation. It's revealed, oh wait, she's Wonder Woman. She's been around since World War I, fighting and killing Nazis, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, there was like a picture of her and like Chris Pine's character and a couple other people like from World War One, like in her file, I guess.
I want to push back on your issues with the story. Those of you who have voiced your concerns, you're saying that the MCU did it better. I think that they had to do that because the characters in the MCU are not as well known, say for Spider-Man, to the rest of the public. Most everybody knows who Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, The Flash, all these people are, because they're so ingrained in the popular culture like the Marvel heroes aren't.
I mean, I would prefer, I see what you're saying, but there's a better way to do it. Like, it's so obvious that, like that whole scene is just, there's going to be a Justice League movie soon. I feel like they should have found a better way to do it. Like, you could have incorporated them into this movie's story just a little more, but I mean, it's just a little lazy to me.
I liked it. I thought it was cool. It made the world seem a lot more dangerous in a way, that these metahumans exist, and it's not a teaser at the end of the movie like the what's his name, Nick Fury at the end of Iron Man saying we need to talk about the Avengers Initiative. That was cool, but that's already been done before. We see that in the MCU movies. I don't want the DC movies to be too much like the Marvel movies. I liked, there's this company that's keeping an eye out on these metahumans. Like, do we need to be worried about them or not? And Bruce Wayne's wanting to track these people down and create a team of their own. I think that was cool. I liked that part.
Okay, well, agree to disagree.
It is weird though. It is weird though that there's probably some intern at LexCorp that had to design logos for each one of these people, like graphics design, like the actual look of the characters on their email file. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, I guess they just wanted to come up with some logos for him, I guess.
Yeah, that's kind of it. Here's another problem I have with the movie. Another problem I have with the movie is that I think it's too long.
Oh yeah, it's way too long.
There's a lot of fluff.
Too long. The worst part to me about this movie is that Doomsday is in it. He has no point of being here. Doomsday is such a significant character that I feel like he warrants almost a whole movie. I think they tried to rush stuff with Doomsday. They just tried to be like, well, the fans like Doomsday, so let's just shove him in there. Lex Luthor should have just teamed up with Batman because he should have had them try to fight each other. In my opinion, I think he should have teamed up with Batman. He'd be like, hey, you want to kill Superman? So do I. Let's kill him. But no, he's got this real convoluted plan where he gets some of their DNA and tries to pit them against each other for some reason. But then he also wants to make a monster from a Kryptonian space. That Lex Luthor's whole plan is just bonkers to me. And I think that Doomsday was really throwaway. I would have liked to have seen more of him in a better movie.
Okay, but think about it like this for a second. Doomsday kind of had to be there, like, for the story, because I feel like if he wasn't there, like, either one, Superman or Batman had to die, because, like, just like in the new Godzilla versus Kong movie, obviously, Kong or Godzilla aren't going to die. There has to be someone that they team up to fight together to, like, end up putting a tight little bow on the end of the story,
I get what you're saying, but I know what you're saying. I don't like that it's Doomsday. Like, Lex could have created, like,
it could have been Lex.
Well, something like he could have created. I don't know, like a different.
I feel like Lex is too like weak. You know what I'm saying?
No, he is. But no,
Lex Luthor's my least. Lex Luthor's my least favorite part about this movie.
His plan's ridiculous. Like, guys, can't you acknowledge that Lex should have teamed up with Batman in this movie? He should have tried to convince. I don't know if Batman would have done it, but he should have tried to convince Batman to team up with him. But instead of just, he wants them to fight each other for some reason. Kind of dumb.
I just can't see Batman and Lex teaming.
That's what I'm saying. But he could have made an effort to reach out to Batman and do that. Like, I don't know. It's just Lex's plan is a little ridiculous. Like, it never seems like he has a clear goal in his head. You know what I mean? Like, he's got a very vague goal that he wants to reach, but it's just very convoluted. Like, the whole stuff with that senator woman and the explosion at the courthouse was just like, what? What's happening? It just, I don't know. It's very convoluted. He could have accomplished what he wanted to accomplish quicker than he did.
I agree, Luke. I have trouble when I'm watching the movie. When I watch a movie, I want to enjoy it first and foremost. But if I think about some things, this could use some explanation. I don't quite know what Lex is doing here. Lex Luthor, the character, is my least favorite part about this movie. He's just too weird.
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
He's also too far removed from. Go ahead.
Well, just also for a movie called Batman v Superman, their fight is like very, very brief, especially for, like you guys said, this movie's too long. Well, they fight for like 14 minutes total. It's just very.
I think it's more like 8 minutes.
Yeah, so it's even less than that. Yeah, it's not. And the way the fight is resolved is maybe the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. The Martha line might be and you know why? Because who on earth calls their mom Martha? Like at all other points in this and Man of Steel, when he talked about Martha Kent, he called her mom every time, just like he never called his dad Jonathan. It was just so there are several different ways that he could have gone about Batman not deciding to kill him in that moment. And I just don't, I don't buy it. I think that moment's stupid. He's like, oh, his mom has the same name as my mom. He has a mom. I can't kill this guy. He's got a mother. It's like, yeah, Batman. All those criminals that you killed and blew up had moms too, but whatever.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, I could nitpick you and say that he never stood over them and they never screamed for their mom. He just went ahead and killed them.
That's fair,
the ending. I mean, that's just nitpick. I don't really actually think that. I agree. I don't think that. That's one of the things I'm just like, I could use some explanation for this. Zack Snyder did a Batman versus Superman watch party where he tries to explain things to the best of his ability, and what he's trying to get across, I think, is commendable. He's mentioned some things in interviews, and I've read and listened to some film analyses of BVS, and the idea of Batman realizing that he's become the very monster that killed his own parents, right? Batman's become the same as Joe Chill. Joe Chill's the one that killed the Waynes. I think it's really neat. It's that moment of realization. That's why in the movie, there's a flashback to, as he's standing over Superman, there's a flashback to when his own parents died. And he's like, oh, I'm no better than this. I've become the bad guy. I'm no better than the villains.
No, I think that is great. And I think that's a really awesome place to take his character. I think the way that the movie got him to this place was stupid. I think the goal that Zack Snyder had in mind there was good, but there were several different ways other than Superman just saying Martha. Like that every time he says it, it takes me out of the movie every time I hear that line. But no, in theory, what you're saying is good. Like that's a very good thing for Batman to realize. So the way they did it was bad.
I have a quick question for you guys. When we are nitpicking a movie, who do we blame? Do we blame the director or the writer?
Most of the writer.
The writer usually.
It depends on the circumstances of the movie and what the problems are with it. If the problem is from a story standpoint, then the writer. If the story is from now, the problems with the story, it could be the writer. It could also be the editor. Could be the director. It could be a lot of things, but mainly it's down to the writer. But that is down to like what the studio's budget is. If they have to cut out scenes that were written, things like that. If the problem is like from a filmmaking perspective, it's definitely the director's fault.
Well, then in terms of filmmaking, I think this is visually, I think it's one of the most gorgeous movies. The issues I have are most certainly with the writing.
Oh yeah, I mean so visually it's fantastic. Yeah.
Chris Terrio and David S. Goyer, those would be the guys to take issue with.
Oh, so you're defending your boy Zack Snyder right now, aren't you?
I'll be honest. I'm a Snyder fan. I haven't seen all of Snyder's work. I haven't seen Dawn of the Dead or Sucker Punch or any of his early stuff, but I really enjoy his DC movies. But I'm not above criticizing him. I think that he does have his blind spots.
Guys, now I feel like we've talked about this movie a lot.
Yeah.
This is taking up a lot of time. Is that the one that's next? I didn't know which one was next.
Suicide Squad is next. Now, it's kind of topical.
This is my least favorite.
Because the new Suicide Squad, James Gunn's Suicide Squad, just released a trailer a week or two ago.
Yeah.
Have we all seen that?
Looks fantastic.
Is that one in the DCEU too, or is it going to be like the Joker?
Yes, I think. Is it? I don't know.
It is. It's in there.
It is.
See, this is another problem with the DCEU.
It's in the DC.
It's so convoluted. Like, to my understanding, it's Robert Pattinson's Batman is going to be in the DCEU canon. Like, it's just so convoluted. I honestly think they should have just done like the Flashpoint story arc and just reset the entire thing. Like, because they obviously have no idea how to make a cohesive story out of what they've got. Like, if it's got to the point where they have to remake movies and recast characters, like, it's insane. I don't see how they can keep a universe type series going on much longer.
I think everyone, using a real life example, I think everyone in this chat can understand what it's like to be in a large group where everybody claims sort of responsibility for something. When it's everybody's thing, nothing gets done, right? You understand what I'm saying by that?
Yeah, of course.
Like everyone's a quote unquote creative lead.
Yeah.
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 But see,
that's in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, I feel like you're about to say what I'm about to say, so just keep going.
In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's Kevin Feige. But DC doesn't have one of those. Every single thing needs to be approved by every studio head. There's no one person that's in charge of everything. And that's what they need. That's where you're going, Tyler.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to say. Everything that goes on in the MCU passes through Kevin Feige's desk. He approves everything. He's the one that does all the planning, signs off on casting and everything like that. He is very much the head of the MCU. Everything is his cohesive vision. And I think the DC is desperately lacking that. I feel like if Chris Nolan
What's your opinion on Suicide Squad?
Suicide Squad, I was very excited for this one when it was coming out in theaters, and I left just so disappointed by it. I think Cara Delevingne is a terrible actress, and I don't buy her at all as the villain in this movie. I think the only one that really did well was Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, and I think it says a lot that she's the only one being brought back in the next Suicide Squad movie. I thought Will Smith was okay. I think Will Smith is like very overrated as an actor in general, but I thought he did fine in this movie. Just in general, it was so overwhelming. They killed off several characters like right from the get-go. Jared Leto, who I like as an actor, his Joker was just awful. I thought the story was like especially weak. And just in general, I was just overwhelmed. Not overwhelmed. I was underwhelmed by the movie. I don't think it's a bad movie by any means, but I do think it says a lot that they are rebooting it in the same universe. I think that shows how what the internal DC people think of it if they're rebooting it it's only been like 5 years, I think, since it came out.
I'll be honest with you. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Luke, I was done.
Well, I was just saying, this is far and away my least favorite of the DCEU movies, man. I hate it. I really do not like this movie for basically every reason you mentioned, Tyler. I mean, I don't really even have to say much. You pretty much hit the nail right on the head. I really hate this movie. The character build, I mean, it's laughably bad. I know there's a lot of characters that you have to introduce, and that's very hard from a writing perspective. But they could have done something a little better. Like, it's especially laughable when, like, they're leaving for the mission, and then out of nowhere, Katana hops on, and Rick Flag looks at him. He's like, "This here's Katana. She carries the souls of her whatever in her sword." It's just, and then you're like, okay, well, that's all we need to know about her. It's just so, oh gosh, it's cringeworthy, man. It's just, The character writing in this movie is horrible. I think Margot Robbie does a really, really fantastic job. She's awesome. I think some of the side characters are okay. Like Captain Boomerang, I thought was okay. I think they are bringing him back for the next one. I don't think he has a big role in it, but I've seen him in promotional material, so I'm glad they're bringing him back. But he was okay. Also, I think the fact that I think this movie's a little pointless, if I'm being honest, in the grand scheme of things, mainly because they're fighting someone who wasn't originally going to be the villain. Like they were together, and then the Enchantress were supposed to be a part of this group because she was like with Rick Flag. They had a romantic relationship, but then all of a sudden, the Enchantress part of her takes over, and that becomes the villain. So it's a little pointless. You're fighting someone who's going to be a member of your team. Also, the fact that they sent a guy with a boomerang and a woman dressed in clown makeup who has giant hammers and stuff to fight this like enchanted being is a little ridiculous. This movie, when you look at in the grand scheme of things, it's funny that, and I think the DCEU people agree with me because they're trying to reboot this so hard, with James Gunn's movie. But yeah, man, I hate this movie. I really don't like it. I liked it when I first saw it, and it's like every time I revisit it, I just like it less and less every time. But that's really all I have to say.
I've seen this movie once, and it was in theaters. And I agree with both you, Tyler, and you, Luke. It's disappointing, and I think it's dumb. I don't really like anything about it. I think the action sequences are also really lackluster. I think they're bad.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, too.
I think they're a little bit entertaining.
I'm glad for you, Ray. I think
that's like really the only decently entertaining thing about the movie. It's like a few of like the Deadshot scenes are cool. A few of the Margot Robbie, Harley Quinn scenes are cool. And they both
was really disappointed.
Pretty decent performances, and then like the rest of it's bad.
Yeah. I was really disappointed in the Joker.
Yeah, I was too.
Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix is my favorite Joker.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh, dude, you got to see that.
You really need to. It's awesome.
It's great.
Oh, man.
But it's funny. Is this like the first movie that we pretty much agreed about so far?
Yeah, I think
we all pretty much hate it.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we were doing a tier list, this would be on the bottom of mine.
Oh, I think it is one of the worst big budget movies ever.
Mm-hmm.
I got a question for you, Luke, and anybody else really. Would you rather watch this movie or Michael Bay's Transformers?
Transformers any day.
Transformers.
All right. Respect. Yeah, me too. Those movies are dumb, but at least there's explosions going on.
They're entertaining.
Yeah.
Shall
we talk about Wonder Woman?
Okay, so me and Ray just had an idea. So we have been going for almost 50 minutes at this point, which is about the time we cap our podcast episodes. There are 10 DCEU movies. We were thinking we could break each. We were thinking we would do like a 3-part podcast series where we talk about 3 movies per episode. How does that sound?
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, I didn't realize we'd been talking this long.
Yes, Luke, are you cool with that?
Yeah, I mean, that'd be fine. I think.
Yeah.
I heard doubt in Luke's voice.
No, it's fine. I mean, I don't know. There were some of the ones later down the line that I had a lot to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean,
yes,
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, because at the rate we're going now, if we have another discussion like the BVS one, this will be like a 3-hour long episode.
Yeah.
So I think we should cut it here and do 2 more parts down the line. And we could
that'd be a lot of fun.
We can combine Justice League and the Snyder Cut into one discussion, so we have 3 discussions per episode.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Nice suggestion there.
Okay, I'm going to cut this discussion out and just cue into an outro. Okay, so with that, we have discussed the first 3 movies of the DCEU. We have discussed Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and Suicide Squad. Since there are 10 movies in the DCEU and we've been talking for close to an hour at this point, we are going to cut the discussion here. This is going to be part of a 3-episode arc of podcast episodes. In each episode, we will be discussing 3 different movies in the DCEU. Now, there are 10 of them, so we will be combining the Justice League and Snyder Cut discussions into one episode. Into one discussion, I should say, so we have 3 per episode. Thank you, Isaac, for appearing on the show. We have enjoyed having you on. We hope you've enjoyed your time here.
Thank you, Cinebros. It's been a privilege.
So we look forward to seeing you back. You'll be in several episodes coming up. We have 2 more of this one, and I want to debate you for one of our episodes. So we hope the viewers have liked your performance on this episode. Guys, if
Certainly. You got no complaint from me.
Exactly. Guys, if you have enjoyed this episode, you can follow us on all of our social media at Cinebros Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, and Cinebros P on Twitter. Isaac, do you have any social media you'd like to share?
Yeah, I got on Instagram. It's I think it's _Zachman_, and then my YouTube channel is just Isaac Williamson.
All right, and Luke and Ray, anything to say before we go?
Guys,
Hello,
thank
everybody.
you. Yeah, thank you as always for listening. Of course, thanks Isaac for being here once again. Guys, be on the lookout for more 5-minute movie reviews coming up very soon. I know they've been released a little sporadically here lately, but we're about to record quite a bit of them, so expect a lot of them coming up here soon. Thank you guys for watching.
And we will see you. Bye.